Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the Lovely Biertrix on Wisp Sports. I'm the Lovely Biertrix, and at Wisp Sports we believe women in sport deserve equal coverage. This month we're talking to the amazing Loud and Queer about why you should coach roller derby. But first, a word from our sponsors. Dive into summer and enjoy it to the fullest. Cheer on your family Olympians and keep the members of your team diving, swimming and just having summer fun with Highlands earache drops. Highlands wants to make sure your summer fun isn't ruined by ear pain. Highlands earache drops provide natural relief from pain, fever, irritability and occasional sleeplessness associated with earaches. Highlands has been trusted by generations to provide safe homeopathic medicine for everyone in your family. After you've been diagnosed by a physician, try Highlands homeopathic earache drops or tablets. Earache drops are available at CVS stores. To learn more, go to highlands.com/ear. That's HYLANDS, highlands.com/ear. Claims are based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence, not FDA evaluated. Always read and follow label directions. Hello, Loud and Queer.
Hello. It's really nice to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. I know everybody's been missing it during lockdown, no tournaments.
No.
So my voice has not been out there.
It's been very quiet.
Well, I think that's something we're definitely going to touch on today because we are, of course, in the month of May right now and into 8 weeks of lockdown in the UK. The landscape of that for roller derby is pretty grim. Lots of tournaments have been cancelled in the UK and Europe. And obviously there is no training happening because roller derby is a very close contact sport. So super difficult for you to train when there's restrictions in place, right?
Yeah, it's been a new kind of challenge for me as a coach, and you know, we've had to, within my league, which is an amateur league, really go back to basics when it comes to training and kind of strip back and acknowledge also that, you know, we're not going to be obviously recording attendance or anything like that, but as a coach, I'm still trying to run training on a regular basis so that we have some kind of structure and normality for those people who want to access it, essentially.
Oh, well, let's get into the detail of that in just a second because I'm super interested to how you're doing that and how your league's coping with this as well. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about you. So Loud and Queer, you coach Surrey Roller Girls.
I do.
How long have you done that for?
So I was elected head of coaching back in, maybe November or December when we had our AGM. So it's really not been a huge amount of time, which has been, you know, a little bit of a kick in the teeth given the current situation because I had plans for the year. But prior to that, I'd kind of been helping out on the coaching committee for about the previous season. So, you know, not the most experienced coach, but coaching builds on kind of skills which I feel like I naturally have, and it's something that does come fairly easily to me. So it feels like I've been coaching for a lot longer than I have.
I feel like all the coaches at home who listen to this will now be nodding along like, yes, I hear you. Coaching ages you. Not to put you off.
400 years.
Tell us a little bit about you then, Loud and Queer. Tell us, how long have you been skating in roller derby? How did you get into it? Tell me about your favourite thing about roller derby. Oh, roller derby.
Gosh, all the things. Okay, so I first put skates on, literally ever first put skates on in February 2016. And I joined the new skaters program with Surrey Roller Girls. So it's been kind of just over 4 years. And I played my first champ season last year, and then we started champs this year. We got one champs game before everything went topsy-turvy. And probably about really shortly actually after I started out with Surrey, I was offered the chance to announce a home game, which kind of kick-started my announcing career, and since then my skating and my announcing has very much run alongside each other. You know, every other weekend I was either skating in tournaments or games, or I was traveling off to announce, and I love them both equally. In terms of kind of what I love about it, it's an interesting one, because a lot of people say, you know, when they're asked about roller derby, they say, well, I really hated sports in school, or like, I never felt like I was sporty. And for me, it's not the case. I was actually relatively sporty in school. Like, I always loved team sports. I loved individual sports as well, but team sports I did from quite a young age. But the key thing is that I was never outstanding at team sports. Like, I was a fairly solid team member, you know, and I always worked hard and things, but I never saw myself as naturally sporty. And I felt, you know, reflecting and looking back, I felt very much like my body type was a hindrance. Now, my body type's not like a particularly kind of...
You're not a dinosaur, are you? Or a snake?
I'm not a dinosaur, like, you know, but you know, in the... I'm not any of those things. But when it was things like when I was on teams at school, I was on teams with a lot of very lithe, skinny, and quite often like quite the pretty, sporty girls. And that was also the case at university. And I always felt very different to them. And I felt like, because I was a slightly bigger girl, and you know, and I've felt like slightly more awkward physically, and so I felt that when I wasn't good at a sport, it was because of my body type, or because I wasn't naturally suited to it. But I still loved it, so I kept playing. Then I went through a period of probably about 3 years where I didn't have time for team sports, because I was training to be a teacher, and I was living away from, I was in a very kind of isolated situation, and so I didn't play sport for a few years. And then I moved back to Surrey and found roller derby, and to say it's changed my life is not an exaggeration. I don't think it's changed who I am. I think it's just made me a lot better at who I am. I'm still who I've always been at the core. But it was in roller derby where I realised my body is a strength. Like, that's why I'm good at roller derby. I'm naturally quite strong. I've got a butt that people complain about after every game, after every practice. They just come up to me and they go, your butt is so annoying. And I'm like, I know, right? Thank you so much. And it's, you know, my feminist politics always taught me to radically love my body. And it's, you know, in the world we live in, it's hard work and it's daily work, but I did it. But roller derby has made that so much easier to love my body, to have that practice of loving it and celebrating it. Yeah, God, I miss this sport.
I always get goosebumps when I hear anybody say, yeah, like just that acceptance of being who you are and your body shape, and being able to really feel like the people around you, you know, are equally as accepting of their bodies. I think it's such a difference to what many people have experienced in sports. So I think when people say, especially, you know, oh, I wasn't a sporty person at school, you've just described to me my experience of school sports, which was I felt awkward in my own body, and my body type wasn't necessarily reflected in the sports team type. And so there was a sort of a lack of gestalt almost with the way that I felt about me and what my body image was, and what I thought I should be and try and conform to, you know.
There's a disconnect there, isn't it? When when society or the people around you are telling you that your body is not right for whatever you're trying to do, you start to believe it yourself. And like, I was always really lucky because I was brought up with like quite a positive body image, and like I had a lot of very positive like feminist and queer influences around me, like at university and beyond. So in some sense I was really advantaged. But like, it's like you say, when you're in roller derby, you feel that your body is celebrated because all of it is useful. Like, not, you know, no matter what size or shape or speed you are, it is useful in some context, and it's powerful, and that's really cool. And I still, whilst I look at other sports and see lots of other you know, my friends play different sports, and I look at them and I think that's brilliant, that obviously empowers you, but have you tried roller derby though?
Yeah, but by the way, can I just ask?
Because I can guarantee you, yeah, have you tried putting on skates and flinging yourself
Have I told you
at
about roller
people?
derby in the past 5 minutes? Because I
yeah.
don't remember if I did or not.
Yeah, it's like Mormons coming to your door, isn't it, and saying, can we tell you the good word about roller derby? I think my friends have gotten quite used to it now.
We're just in skates rather than, you know, other clothing. We're in skates, and we're coming to get you and recruit you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
We do have other clothing on as well, though. Like, it's not just we.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. There'd be health and safety
important
issues
to clarify that.
all over the place if we were just in skates, honestly. So you told us a bit about how you got into coaching. You started as a new skater with Surrey Roller Girls, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I can imagine, from the loud and queer that I know. Excellent team player, and then elevated up to coach. Head coach, do you have a coaching body, or is it just you?
Well, we've got a reasonably loose structure in Surrey, in that we do have, so I am head of coaching, but my coaching committee is pretty much anyone who wants to join in. And it's really interesting that you say that I showed up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because I did. I absolutely did. But I cried a lot. Oh. I cried so much. For the first year and a half or so of derby, I felt like I was having to wring myself out after practice, because I would sometimes be really miserable with it, because I felt like I wasn't succeeding as fast as some of the people around me. And that's definitely something I have to factor in now as a coach. I also took a break of a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, I think, at one point, because I realised that I was not happy going to practice. And I said, I want to be happy at practice, but at the moment I'm not. So I'm just going to take a step back, and then I'm going to come back and commit. And that was really important for me. So now as a coach, I have to really balance sometimes the frustration I feel when I see other people behaving as I have done, or having those experiences, and I have to try to switch to empathy rather than frustration, and go, wait, you were there a couple of years ago, even though I can't imagine that now. Yeah, I didn't start out with coaching ambition at all. I didn't, you know, I had coaches that I really admired and really respected, but they were phenomenal skaters and, you know, really superb players to boot. And I kind of never really saw myself like that, because I'm not a brilliant skater. I'm all right, I'm pretty good, but I'm not by any means the most skillful skater. I'm not fancy at all. And so I didn't see myself as somebody who could coach when we had such excellent skaters on my team.
Do you not think, though, just to interject there, that it's not always about being the best skater? It's actually about being the best communicator of a skill.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because that is what I came to realise. I came to realise that the strengths I had in my own personal self were actually what led me really well to coaching. So I've mentioned that, I can't remember if I mentioned that I'm a qualified teacher. So I've always been somebody who likes to help people, who's very good at explaining things and breaking things down, you know, taking a concept which seems unfathomable and making it accessible. And I'm really good at that. So I kind of, you know, I always lent more naturally to to that, you know, it came to the point when I was starting to go up to our newer skaters in practice and start to help them, and realize actually I'm quite good at doing that. And then I started to do a session every so often. I was also addicted to roller derby a couple of, you know, within 6 months of starting, I was completely addicted. I went to games, I watched footage, I started to announce, I went to boot camps, and I was one of very few people on the team at the time who did that. And so I started to become, relative to my team, who are quite a small amateur team, I started to become a lot more knowledgeable. And I was seen as a bit of a derby nerd, which I would say I am. But it's interesting because I know so many people who are much, much nerdier than me. But what within my team at the time, people saw that I had a lot of knowledge and ideas, and kind of I started to build on that, and start to really enjoy coaching whenever I did it. So, you know, looking back 4 years ago, I'd never have thought that I would have now been the head coach of my league, but it feels completely right to be in that position.
Well, I think that what it feels like, you were a roller derby sponge, just soaking up all this information and kind of looking at skills and watching other players and things like that. And now you're just in that perfect position to be able to go out there and help elevate your own team's skills up to, you know, that higher level, and pass that knowledge on. And everything you've described there, I think that there'll be lots of people listening where they say, well, I think I'm that derby nerd. I think that's me in my team. I think I'm that. Oh, but I'm not a teacher, or I'm not sure I could communicate. And you've kind of said that you feel like you've got the skills, but the skills aren't just having a degree in teaching, are they?
No, completely not. But it's interesting that you mentioned that kind of that insecurity around it, because I think people find confidence in their bodies playing roller derby, like, because they get to do they do things with their bodies that they haven't done before. But it might take a while for them to translate that confidence into their own voice and to their own presence within the team. And you know, I'm not a perfect coach. I don't think anyone is. I think there are so many different varieties of coaching style out there. And so it's important for people to, if they want to get into coaching, to not model themselves on an existing coach. And I think that was my mistake initially, in that I thought, well, I've got to be as good as this person. And I didn't focus on actually, well, what am I good at? You know, what are my strengths, and how do I put that out in a coaching sense? And once I realized what my skills were and my strengths, it became a lot easier to coach and to plan and to deliver those sessions, really.
I feel like that's a really good point you've made, because oftentimes in roller derby, people sort of say, well, choose a skater that you really like, that you feel has the same body type as you, has the same skating style.
So much. I hate it so much. It's honestly,
but they've been skating for 15 years.
But also, I don't like it when people box themselves like that. Because I feel like that's contrary to derby. And you know, I might get people disagreeing with me here. I might get people saying, well, actually, I look to this person for inspiration, because they look like me, and I'm, you know, or body type wise. And I go, brilliant, okay, but just because you are not physically like that person, it does not mean that you cannot skate like them. And it's one of the hardest barriers to break down, I think. That said, I do have to acknowledge as a coach that sometimes there are things physically that people are not able to do with great ease. And that comes down to me saying, you know your body best, and you know your body's capabilities best. It's a very fine line, because as a coach, I also have to say, I can see that your body is capable of this. And you're just, you know, you're inches away from it. So it's that almost that in teaching, we call it the zone of proximal development, you know, the zone where you're just on the edge of your comfort zone, but you're still within what you're capable of. And being able to find that and perceive that in others, I think is a really important skill to have. So if you're able to look at others and imagine them doing something, then you've got the potential to coach, I feel.
I like that. I feel like I'm constantly in the zone of proximal development, just
That's
with my
a good
life.
place to be. It's a good place to be. It means you're learning. It means you're growing. That's
Sure.
literally it. It's a good thing, B. It's a good thing.
I'm going to roll that one out at work tomorrow. Next time I'm asked a question that I don't quite know the answer to, but
it's not in my zone of proximal development.
I take on board your points there.
It's like when I get asked to go to an after party. Nah, sorry, it's not within my zone of proximal development.
Completely fine. Completely fine. Let's get that on a t-shirt. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Need your sleep. So I think, I'll bring it back. Lockdown has got me scatterbrained. Zones of proximal development, pushing yourself to do a skill even when you don't think you can. So I know my experience as being a skater, a lot of the time, I would think, because I was relatively new to the sport and there was lots of other kind of things at play there, I would often think, I can't do that. But the can't was more wrapped up in, I don't want to make a fool of myself. I'm not as good a skater as that person. So I feel like often, and it's something to kind of digress a little bit, but in my newer sport that I'm doing now, I go into every practice with, I'm not going to fear this. I'm not going to fear what I'm being asked to do, but also I'm not going to compare myself to anybody else in this lesson, because comparison is the thief of joy, right? But back then when I was learning to skate, learning roller derby, I would look at the other people in my team and think, well, I'm not as good a skater as Rascal. The fact that Rascal has been a skater since...
I mean, Missy Rascal is...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm just going to make that... Oh, her skating.
Imagine being that little baby skater and having Rascal rock up and want to join your team. And she's there out there doing 360 toe loops and things. And you're like, I can't turn around.
Not like she's been figure skating for 1,000 years or anything.
Exactly. But it doesn't matter, because I think as just people in general, we're really good at comparing ourselves and finding our own shortcomings. And as a coach, how do you battle the mental aspect of coaching a team?
Well, I think the most important thing to do with coaching is to look at everything that's done on track or in practice as a learning opportunity, and to really celebrate that. And again, I think that is definitely something that comes from my teaching background, like celebrating mistakes because they're learning points. So it's things like we have very much a culture in our league that's not unique. I'm sure other teams do it. It's things like when people fall down, we all going to go, yay, that was an amazing fall, kind of thing, or like, cool, what a wife how that was brilliant. And we really celebrate that. And one of the first things we teach in basic minimum skills is how to fall safely and how to fall. And whenever I'm coaching, especially when I'm coaching newer skaters, if I can see them looking a bit tentative that day, I skate them and I go, have you fallen over yet? And if they say no, I go fall over right now, and then I'll speak to you. And honestly, it works, because for me, again, when I started out, a big fear was like fear of falling, fear of looking like a bit of a fool. But once you've actually fallen over, like, not, 90 times out of 100, you kind of go, actually, that wasn't that bad. And I have to kind of force that confrontation of the fear sometimes. Again, it's the fine line. I'm never going to force anyone to do something they don't want to do. But I think if you put your skates on, if you put your kit on and you're at practice, you do want to do the things. So sometimes it's just me as a coach going, do I need to push a little bit, intervene a little bit, or is that more damaging? And it really comes from knowing your team, reading their moods, picking up on stuff they've done before. If a person's feeling really rotten about themselves, I can go, hey, remember last week when you did this, 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 and this. Channel that now. Have a go at it a few times. If you're still not feeling it, today's an off day and we all have them. But can you accomplish this? So it's a lot of people skills management, I think. It's a lot of patience. But again, I taught teenagers for 7 years, like, you know.
That's why I was laughing. I was thinking.
Yeah, you know, honestly, sometimes I'd rather have a classroom of teenagers, like, bless my team, but sometimes they are just as frustrating, but they know when they are. But yeah, so being really patient, having really clear outcomes for those skaters who are struggling mentally, is important as well. And bringing it back to the fact that everyone has different journeys and different reasons for being there.
Yeah.
You know, and if, you know, some people just want to be at Derby to have fun and to learn a new skill, and some people want to be there because they want a competitive spot on a team. And as a coach, knowing all those reasons and those motivations can be really helpful. That comes with communicating with your team and with knowing them really well. Like I say, I don't think you can be, this might again be a controversial point, when you're coaching a team, like your team, not being a guest coach, when you are coaching your team, you have to show up regularly and know your team.
I don't think that's controversial.
I think some people might feel it's controversial because they might feel like, oh, well, are you saying that if I don't coach them all the time, then I'm not a good coach? That's not necessarily true. I think it's more me saying, if you coach, if you show up regularly, you're able to be a better coach than if you don't. That's not controversial. But, you know, within Derby, obviously people have lives and so on.
Yeah.
So when I took on coaching, I had to take it on with the mindset that I am going to be there as often as I can.
Yeah.
And that's a big commitment, and I was able to make that commitment, and not everyone is able to. So, you know, it comes down to who you have in your league. But I think coaches, more than most other league positions, need to know that they are there regularly, because otherwise you can't track the progress of your team as effectively, in my opinion.
And I guess also it's about having that touch base, that history, that knowledge of what your team is going through,
for sure,
to be able to support individually as well as on a whole, you know. And you don't get that if you're just dropping in there once a month, I'm guessing. That's how I feel.
You know, this year in particular, we had a really short time period before we were actually having our first champs game, and so I was coaching almost every session. But then, you know, as it was getting closer to the game, I have a couple of other fantastic coaches who aren't team members, but, you know, who have been with our team for ages and who support us and are fantastic. And so that's the point where I get them to take on the sessions, but they're sessions that we discussed in advance and that I plan, and then we discuss, and I say, this is what I want us to get out of this. So as head coach, it was really like, it's really important for me to have that oversight. Because then I know, you know, if I'm away for some reason, I know exactly what's been done in the session. So I can come back next week and go, right, we're building on this now. And again, I sound like a broken record here. That does come back to my teaching background. And, you know, if you set a cover lesson for your kids, you want them to do that work so you can move on to the next stage afterwards. That's where progress is most effective. But other people might have different attitudes to that. It depends on your league. You know, we're a little amateur league in Surrey. We're a very different shape than a team like Rainy City, which has got, you know, 4 or 5 teams, and, you know, and London, which again has 4 teams. And then, you know, don't even think about the top champs teams like Rose City, who have something like 500 skaters, you know. So coaching is differently shaped wherever you look, but I think the core principles of showing up and knowing your team really well remain the same.
I agree completely. That's the scalable part of coaching. So
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Do stay on that coaching soapbox. I will support you all the way. Right, you've told us about all the skills. We're all going to go off and get degrees in teaching, and then we're going to come back and be excellent coaches.
Oh, honestly, don't. Not this time.
No,
really don't.
I'm joking with you.
It's all a bit much at the moment.
But why should you give me a call to action here? Why should somebody sat at home listening to this? They're in the COVID funk. They're thinking about roller derby. They're going to go back. They're going to have that fire in their belly. They're going to skate. All I want to do is skate for my team. And somebody comes up and says, hey, why don't you think about coaching? We'd love you to take on one of our teams. Why should somebody say, yeah, all right, I'll do it?
Well, I can give you kind of a twofold reason there. Okay, first of all, I think if you are somebody who, like me, who felt quite middle of the pack skating wise, like I say, I'm by nowhere near the best skater on my team, but I wanted to get better at roller derby. Coaching has made my play better in a way that I did not anticipate in terms of tactical awareness and skills, because I'm talking about them all the time, because I'm demonstrating them, vocalizing them, tweaking them, planning them. My own gameplay, despite having significantly less practice time because I'm focusing on others, has absolutely improved. And like I said, I didn't really anticipate that. I actually got worried at one point. I thought, am I focusing too much on other people and not on myself? And then when we had our first games of the season, I had some really good games, and it was because I knew where everyone was meant to be, what I was meant to be doing, what we were executing on track. So for me, it was a kind of, I started out very much with the attitude of do as I say, not as I do, practice this, execute this, even if I can't do it perfectly. But I ended up being able to do as well, which was really, really cool. And I was really proud of that. So that's if you're kind of like, if you're somebody who's perhaps a newer skater, who wants to improve yourself, you get better through teaching others, through demonstrating, in my opinion. And then if you've got somebody who is perhaps you're a cracking skater, but maybe it's yourself that you want to showcase and you want to improve, coaching is great for obviously your skills like confidence, for leadership, for using your voice, for contributing to a team. Now, we have roller derby leagues have lots of different positions. You've got your directors and your finance people and your HR and all of that. I've never been particularly drawn to any of that. Like, don't give me something with more paperwork and more, like, I'm just, I'm 30 years old. I'm able to say what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And, I wouldn't be, some people say to me, oh, you'd be really good at HR, you'd be really good at being a director. And I'd go, no, because I'd think that I was right all the time. And I wouldn't want to listen to these other people because I'm quite confident in my opinions. But I am good at coaching, and and it's, do what you're good at, but then amplify it. If you're somebody who has patience and kindness, that is a quality for coaching. If you're somebody who wants to, form a greater bond with your teammates, but coaching comes into that. If you're somebody who's a really good skater and you think, well, I don't really have time to contribute much more to the league, offer to coach a session now and again. If you're there at the session anyway, that is the majority of your time commitment with regards to coaching. There's other bits and pieces. You might need a bit of time to plan, or a bit of, you meet every few months with your committee or whatever it is, but it's not actually a huge commitment as long as you are willing to show up to practices, which presumably you're doing anyway. So essentially, I do really hope, I think we could talk about the roadmap of Derby after lockdown for another period of time, and part of me is quietly hopeful, and part of me is cynical about what will happen to attendance figures and practice sessions and things like that, because everything's really scary at the moment. But actually, that is a good time, I think, for people to say, I'd like to give coaching a try. It's not like we've got champs or games coming up. It's not like we're going to have this sense of urgency of we must learn this really complex skill right now. It's actually, for me as a coach, when I go back, whenever that is, we're going back to basics for a good long while, because whilst some of us have been putting our skates on and training during lockdown, not everyone has had that ability. And we're going to go back to basics. People are going to be doing their crossovers and their plow stops until I am happy with them. And honestly, my team are really going to hate me for it, but they're going to be so good at that. But they're going to be so good at their plow stops. I don't know. I'm really lucky because I feel like my team do really, like the majority of my team certainly do really trust me with what I put out there, because they know that I'm not just coaching something randomly. They know there's a rationale behind it. So I will remind them of that. I'll remind them of that when I make them do left-footed plow stops for an entire session. It would be great. It would be fine.
Maybe you should remind them of that before this podcast goes live, so that they're not surprised to find out what they're going to be doing come July or whenever.
I don't if they know me, I don't think they're going to be that surprised. They know I love plow stops above all else. So, but yeah, look, there are going to be people out there who kind of will be dead keen on coaching and who've just not taken the steps. And there'll be some people who'll maybe give it a try and go, do you know what, that's not for me. That's grand, that's fine. But why not give it a try? You know, you've got to have those experiences to know what you do and don't like. Like, I know in Derby that I do not like doing apex jumps because I have tried them and they scare me. Okay, but at least I tried it, you know. never again. So
please don't have a flashback while you're on my show. It's okay.
Oh no, it's fine, it's all under control.
I was going to say, I'm not going to ask you to do an apex jump right now. I am going to ask you though, is what are your goals now? Normally this would be for the 2020 season, but that instead is our gifted opportunity. This is how I'm seeing it now, as our gifted opportunity to do some learning and growing in our own skills that will contribute to an amazing 2021 skate season. So what are your goals for 2020, 2021?
Well, so I thought this was a question that might come up. So I looked at, I've got a little journal where I've got my notes and stuff, and it's a bit sad actually. I've got a page there, my goals for the 2019-2020 season. And looking at them
That's not sad.
It's not sad. I think sad is in like a bit emotional kind of thing, because I'm looking at them and there are things that I've ticked off and there are things that I won't be able to tick off this season, because, you know, one of them is, you know, some of them are related to RollerCon games, and I'm, you know, obviously not going to be going to RollerCon now and things like that, and announcing the men's roller derby World Cup and things, and all these things that have been taken away from us. Obviously in the grand scheme of things, it's absolutely not a big deal, but I definitely went through a bit of a mourning period with them, and kind of, I'm in the stage of acceptance now of like, this season is not going to happen, so what can I do next season? So I think in terms of my team goals for next season, my goal is that whenever we go back as a team physically in the same place together, as I've said, my goal is to kind of go back to basics, but that's with the view of creating a really safe space for us to rebuild as a team. I have been really fortunate during this lockdown in terms of my own situation and being able to stay at home and so on, but we have team members, and I'm sure every roller derby team does, who have been out there on the front line, who have experienced not inconsiderable trauma through what they've seen, and for whom skating has absolutely dropped off the agenda, and rightly so. So it's going to be a question of a coach of how do I balance that, because there'll be some people who will be absolutely thrilled to be back, and there'll be some people who are probably terrified to come back, having not put wheels on their feet for a while, having not been around people in that social aspect for a while. And that's something that we've been talking about in the kind of the roller derby coaches and trainers group on Facebook. We started that discussion a while ago. So I'm not going into the season with my goal of getting the team to win games or anything. I'm getting them back there to skate again in a way that brings them joy. So, you know, not with any pressure, just with joy and with friendship and with safety and comfort in mind. So that's my kind of team goal. My own, like personally, I think I want to go back and really just focus on, again, rebuilding myself as a skater, like, you know, thinking about what strength training and off skates I can do that will be helpful for me, what bread and butter skills do I really need to brush up on so I can lead by example, and again, but yeah, again, my goal would just be to go back and enjoy skating, like absolutely seizing the moments of enjoyment for me. And then as regards announcing, because I kind of divide my goals into that way, you know, my own skating, my announcing, God, I want to do all the tournaments next season. Like it's been so gutting, seeing these tournaments that we worked, you know, hard to apply for, and I know there's so much planning that goes into it, and that's my little family, you know, like my little announcer family. So I will be applying for as many tournaments as possible. I will be working my butt off to be a better announcer, and to just to see people again really will be really nice. I've really missed, I've really missed everyone. So
I think we can all do a collective sigh when we hear that and be like, same, because that is definitely the way I am feeling, especially about my wonderful announcing family and all the fun that we would have had this year. But I'm going to just save up all that fun and we'll have it next year for sure. And,
let's be honest, the reason that people are most annoyed about Eurocup not happening is because they won't get their cheese pie.
I rued the day cheese pie was decided, and if you don't understand that in joke, it's fine. You can email me and I will let you know. But for now, Loud and Queer, I would like to say thank you so much for sharing your tips on coaching. And it's been wonderful to listen to your journey as a coach, and also the way that you feel about it, and you just being able to share kind of some insights into why it's important that people who do feel like they have that capability to put their hand up and do it for their own personal development as well as their team. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you taking time out of your quarantine life to come and chat to me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's a proper honour.
I just can't wait for you to get back to all of your you know, your league practices and tournaments and things like that, because I know how much happier you'll feel and everybody else will feel when you do. So for now, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's episode 3 in the skate bag, and I'll be back next month with another amazing episode. So subscribe to With Sports on your podcast player. The show notes for this episode will be found on the Lovely Biertrix show page at withsports.com. And while you're on the website, you'll find a lot more coverage of women's sports, from podcast to videos, interviews and blogs covering all sports around the world. Follow us and share your comments on social media at With Sports and at Biertrix. We're the first and only global podcast network for women's sports. And don't forget, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for guests or would like to tell us what you think of the show, you can drop us a line at info@withsports.com. Thanks again to our sponsors, Highlands.com. Visit them at highlands.com/ear. Until the next time, thank you for listening. We're turning up the volume on women's sports.